Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Ashers, and this is
Pat O.
Pat. Oh, how was your ooh, I know this is a hard question, but how was
we
your
just
weekend?
we just got done listening to me fucking rant and rave for 45 minutes. Uh
But you didn't
I
tell me how your weekend was, so
no, I didn't actually, now that I think about it. My weekend was all right. I didn't do anything too crazy. We finished recording season 1 of Wired along with
okay.
the holiday special, so that's definitely going to happen. It's definitely in the can. And that was kind of it. That was my Saturday. Watched Jungle Cruise. It was just whatever.
It was
Um,
whatever. Okay, I haven't
Yeah,
watched it yet.
I don't know. This isn't a film podcast, so I won't fucking go into deep. So it was all right. That was it. And just kind of doing the sober thing for the next couple, who
Sure.
knows how long, and trying not to kill everybody around me, and just being a fucking miserable prick.
I know I've seen you on social media a lot lately.
Really?
I feel like you've been on there a lot. Well, I've got your notifications turned on Twitter because I'm a stalker, so I see everything that you post. Maybe that's why.
That's super awesome. Thank you. That means a lot to me.
I don't want to miss
Uh,
your stuff. You post a lot of, I mean, you do post cool things. I don't want to miss it. So I turn it on for people that I guess I care about. So don't tell anybody that I said
oh,
that, but
that's awesome. Yeah, I guess I've been back a little. I don't know. I really don't think so. I actually came very close to deleting my Instagram this week just because I was like, I don't know, man. Like I get so fucking fed up with social media. It's such bullshit. And Facebook, I'm kind of obligated to have just because of the whole parent
sure.
thing, and my kids are involved with stuff and other people's kids are involved with stuff, and I'm just, that's something I feel like you can't really function in society if you don't have a Facebook to a certain extent socially. So I have that, but I don't really use it.
Hmm.
Me and you were friends on there, but like, no, I don't do anything else on there really. Like even like this movie that I'm doing, which we're shooting, the first day of filming is this upcoming Sunday.
Yeah.
They tag me and stuff all the time, and I'm like, I'm not gonna. And I always like, I have my notifications set up to where I have to approve something before it pops up on my wall. It's like I don't want the PTA moms to know that I'm the fucking script supervisor on Torture the Flesh, like. No, I'm not promoting your fucking movie, dude. Sorry. Now then you go over to my Instagram and my Twitter, and it's a little bit different. I run a little bit more slipshod, and I get to do what the fuck I want. I have absolutely no filter on Twitter, but like Instagram's kind of like halfway. But still, I just like, it's just fucking. I don't know. I'm very. This is what happens when I quit smoking. Primarily when I, drinking and everything else, that doesn't affect me as much. But when I quit smoking, like, nicotine is a sedative. Like it calms me the fuck down, and it allows me to function in society without fucking wanting to scream at what a bunch of phonies everybody is. And
Yeah.
like when I stop smoking, I'm just like, I remember when I was seeing my shrink and I was telling him about it. He's like, "Would you feel that you're more like, you're more aggravated, or you're more like, um, just like amped up?" And I'm like, "No." I don't think that it's me that changes. I think that I just like, if anything, I'm just like not able to handle fucking the stupidity that's around me more.
Yeah.
It's not, and this is the world that we live in, and that's why like fucking substance abuse problems are such a huge fucking problem with our society, is because everybody's trying to medicate themselves to just like get through another day of bullshit. And when you
Yeah.
take away like all of the fucking self medication and like self soothing techniques, and you're just like, okay, now I'm just going to exist in the world and look at everything for face value, you get incredibly frustrated because you're like, oh my god, I can't believe that we live in this fucked up of a world. Our
Oh yeah.
society is this fucking like off kilter and shit, and that our value system is just fucked up. Um, so I sound like a crazy person. So I'm just gonna stop talking for 5 minutes, and I'm gonna ask you how your weekend was.
Yeah, no, it was interesting. So I guess full disclosure, my aunt is in the hospital. She's not doing well. She, is not doing good, and that's just not good. I'm not doing good because she's not doing good. So I know
Yeah.
everybody's seen my whining on social media, speaking of which, but I think I'm allowed to right now, so it's
Well,
fine.
yeah, you were talking about being tagged in a picture. You were tagged in a picture, and it looks like you and like your sister and cousin or something going to the hospital, but everyone's smiling in the car.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah, I was like, not that hey, moments of levity are needed in situations like this. Watch the.
I could just about fucking die. No, that's no my sister. That's my sister and my daughter actually. My my giant 9-year-old is is in the car with us. And my sister, tagged my aunt. So like when you go and look at my aunt's Facebook page, who's fucking on a ventilator in the hospital right now. This is the post that she's like, "Oh, my aunt is dying, but we had a great time going to Schiller's."
Yeah,
So
look at we're at the bakery. Everyone's smiling and shit, and I was like, "Oh, okay."
yeah.
Hey, sometimes the donuts make a world of difference. I'm not gonna
Well,
judge.
right. I mean, that's the thing, about grief is that even though, we had just spent hours at the hospital, and like not everybody, you can't just like everybody can't go in, right? My daughter couldn't go in and she was with us. And so like me and my sister would like take turns, and we kind of, we'd go up for a minute, come back down, whatever. I have a massive fucking family. Like that's another thing people don't know is that like first of all, I'm Italian. Okay, I have a very Italian family, and it's big. So like my grandmother went and had 5 kids, and then those kids had 5 kids, and then those kids had 5 kids, and so it's big. There's hundreds of us. We all don't fit in one place at one time. It's not possible, right? And so so while I'm at the hospital, there's always somebody there, always, and not just one person. There's always a group of people there. So I'm like also kind of visiting and kind of catching up. Me and my family have a very weird relationship because basically all of them have disowned me because I'm a witch and because I'm a prostitute. Now, I'm only one of those things. So I don't you know and
It's not a prostitute.
well, no, drop my OnlyFans down below. No, but really, that's I was thinking about doing sex work. I never did it because it's a lot of work. And
Because of the work part, the work,
because of the work part,
the word work in the
I mean,
title.
it really is a lot of work. It really is. And I'm just like, you know what? It's a lot of social media marketing, and it's a lot of, just taking your pictures. I'm body dysmorphic, so I already don't feel like I look good naked. I've got issues with that. Even though like when I'm like I will go to a party and get completely butt ass naked, not have a care in the world. I'll show anybody my titties. Like really, I will. I'm like, oh, they're just titties. You touch them, it's fine. But you know, other than that, like I don't like taking pictures of myself is different because then I have to like look at myself, and I don't like to. So, it's probably I don't know how surprising that is to people, but it's
If
it is what it is. So
if I was a girl, I think the problem I would have with the sex work thing is that you're forced to collaborate with people that are ultimately your competitors as well. And like, I get that like you're all because you're all kind of fighting for the same scraps. Like you're
right.
fighting for like the same like handful of dudes that are gonna throw you fucking $5-10 or whatever. And like, I don't know. And then you do all this stuff and can you just walk away from it one day? Like I don't know. I'll file it under. I will never have to have that. I never have to worry about having this
Not one of
problem.
your
Right.
struggle.
No one's ever gonna fucking offer me any amount of money to take my clothes off.
I mean, like I love that. I love that more women are doing it. I'm here for it. I will support all of your sex work ventures. It's just that for me personally, I don't think it's something that I could do. I don't know. I mean, I can't. I'd never say never, but it's just not
I think
something
it's
I'm
great. I think
comfortable.
it's yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's like super empowering and like on the last podcast that I did for the college radio station, we had a chick on that had a very lucrative empire that she ran entirely off her cell phone. No other equipment. I mean, yeah, she got a ring light eventually and fucking whatever, but like other than that, she was creating content, she was selling content, she was doing the money transactions, everything was happening right off her smartphone.
Yeah.
And I mean, of course they all lie about how much they're making, but she was paying taxes on it like it was a legit thing,
Right.
and I think that it's great that we're at that. And I think that, for as much as guys hound chicks for, pictures of their titties, like if you can monetize that, go for it, you
Right.
know?
Right. No, I
So
agree. I mean, right. I mean, so, I'm happy with people doing it. The fact of the matter is that I probably don't look as bad as I think I do naked. Not even close. It's just that I don't know what I look like. I'm not able to see that because again, I'm body dysmorphic. I can't tell what I look like. So, to me, I think I'm, 400 pounds and ugly as fuck, but the rest of the world seems to think otherwise. I don't know what y'all see, believe it or not, but I don't see it. So anyway. So my family did not like this, I guess, that I was even entertaining the idea of sex work. And, so they all don't talk to me anymore. And most of them blocked me on social media. So that's great. But, so it was awkward. It was weird. I just have a weird, I kind of have mentioned some things about my past to you guys. I'm not going to get into it, but just weird history. So I had to see certain people like my father, it's just a lot. And then we went to the fucking Schuler's Bakery, and Schuler's Bakery is definitely, a happy place. It is. It's people come from all over the world to go to Schuler's. It's located in shitty Springfield, Ohio. I don't know how many people are familiar with Springfield, Ohio here, but I'm sure if you know about Springfield, you know about Schuler's. But that was great, and it's got some very interesting history to it. So and I'll get into that, but so it was a very reflective weekend, and that's okay. It's all right. It happens. It wasn't great.
Right.
But I'm going to more than make up for it this coming
Yeah.
weekend because I will be in West Virginia at Cryptid Bash, and I cannot fucking wait. I absolutely cannot fucking wait. I've already told everybody, and I don't know who's going to listen to this, before before I see you guys, but I'm kissing everybody on the mouth. I don't care. I've been vaccinated. They've been vaccinated. I'm kissing y'all on the mouth. It's going to happen. And, okay, maybe I won't kiss everybody on the mouth, but most of you I will. And
You already,
I'm
you
so
already got
I'm
done
so
talking about how you like to get drunk at parties and walk around naked. So that's
I do, right. So you guys need, well, that's what what's her name, Sarah, me and Sarah were talking about it with the Snallygaster curator, museum curator, and she's just she was like, man, I can't wait, I'm so excited. I was like, yeah. She was like, are you bringing your daughter? I was like, no, absolutely not. I said, no, we're all gonna get drunk and my titties are gonna be out the whole night. You just need to deal with that. She's like, oh, okay. So I don't know, it's going to be lots of fun. It's definitely something. It's been a weird year, and this was definitely something that I need to do. So I'm
yeah.
excited. So Morgantown, West Virginia, August the 7th, Saturday. Cryptid Bash. If you're around and you want to go, you definitely should. There's going to be a lot of amazing people there. It's being put on by the Moth Boys, from the Moth Boys podcast, so it's an exclusive event for them. But yeah, I mean, I know, Pat, you're not going to go, but
No, I traveled. I saw you. That was that, and then in October, I'm going to be hanging out with Tobias and some other internet friends at a game hole up in Madison. So,
yeah. So you got a busy schedule going
and
on.
plus, like
So
that's really far for me. Like, and that's I mean that's like East Coast shit. And I know you're
yeah.
more Midwest than I am, so it's I mean,
hmm
but still for you, it's like isn't it like a 7 hour drive? Yeah.
No, it's not.
Oh.
I thought it was further. It's because I'm stupid. When I looked it up on Google Maps to see how far it was, I realized that I had highways turned off. It's still 4.5 hours though, but we're going for the whole
Oh,
weekend.
that's
We're
not
gonna be
no, that's not bad. Yeah.
No, it's not bad at all. So we're we're going for, and right, that's the only reason why we're going for the weekend is because it's we don't have to worry about it driving. I can't imagine driving 8 hours in one day, but we would do it. I've done it before.
Right.
But we're going Friday night. We're coming back Saturday, or Sunday. So
Cool.
it will be lots of fun. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. But
Send me pictures, drunk dial me.
well, absolutely, I will drunk dial you. I will. It's gonna
Yeah.
be, especially because I'm gonna have Anne with me, and me and Anne have not really seen each other this year, and that's kind of strange because it just is like it's supposed to be me and Anne, and
Yeah.
we're insult and injury. I mean, that's what we are, and we haven't been, we haven't been together, so it's gonna be, but it's gonna be great. I think she needs it. She's been going through her stuff, and I need it, and we're gonna get all kinds of wild, so it'll be tons and tons of fun.
Cool.
But yeah, so that was my weekend in a nutshell. But I guess we should get into the news. We need some news, right?
Do we have any?
We do. I got some news. I got some
Mm.
really good news. Um, so there has been, I don't know if you remember, but last year there were a couple of events back to back that were happening in LA. I don't know if I'm pretty sure they were happening in LA around the Los Angeles International Airport, where the pilots were seeing somebody floating around in a jetpack,
Jetpack guy. Yeah, I heard about that. I heard
and
about this
he's
recent one that you're just about to talk about.
yep, and he's back. So another jetpack guy has been sighted. Um, I don't. I'm pretty sure you and I have talked about this on the show. I'm almost positive you've been around long enough for us to talk about it. What do you think about this guy, Pat?
I don't know if we did. You know, so I mean, it's one of two things. Either it's a dude in a jetpack, and that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of rich assholes in LA, and we know that the technology exists in some kind of form to where somebody could have a prototype and or a special effects guy could be out there and fucking around with it. Or, I mean, it could be a misidentified cryptid, right?
Oh,
Those are kind of the two options.
okay.
Um, and I don't know. I think it's if it is legitimately a guy with a jetpack, because jetpacks aren't exactly common, but at the same time not completely unheard of. I think that would be really interesting, you know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, who knows? Maybe it's some kind of cryptid or something.
I don't. I mean, I don't think it's a. I mean, I would think it's more alien than a cryptid. I think that would make sense. But for a jetpack, I just don't think it's an actual human with a jet. I mean, we don't have jetpacks that can do what this thing was doing, right? I mean, we don't have jetpacks that first of all can go that high.
I'm not an authority on the technology and where we're exactly at with it, but I know that like I'm sure if you just did like a cursory Google search about like legit jetpack technology and the kind of test things that have been made public, I don't think it's completely out of the question. But it's definitely interesting to see a civilian have it, because they're violating airspace rules and what they're doing. Like they're not, it's somebody. It's like it would be like some rich asshole that like paid fucking $3 million for some French fucking prototype or something, right? And he's flying it around L.A. I think that's a possibility. That doesn't mean that's exactly what it is, but I think that given the location of it, the fact that it's in LA, you still have to kind of keep that in the back of your head. Like,
I mean,
there's a lot of
so
rich
I've looked
goofballs out
into
there.
it.
Yeah,
I've done the homework on it, and the fact of the matter is that jetpacks take a lot of fuel in order to work, and they don't work for very long. So the issue is that they cannot get that high because they don't have sufficient enough fuel to be able to get that high and then make a safe landing. And even if they did, they wouldn't be able to get up there and sustain it because again, they got to come back down safely. So we have no technology right now on the market anywhere that has a jetpack that can get up to the level of planes. So that we know that that's not a possibility. Now that doesn't mean that we don't have some secret government program or something. We have had programs where they've worked on jetpack type technology. However, why would they fly them in a space where they know that they'd get caught doing it? They're not stupid.
well, that's what I mean. This wouldn't be a legitimate like government test run thing. This would be some guys got like paid who knows how many millions of dollars for a prototype from a private lab. You know what I mean? Because like
Yeah.
whatever company is developing the shit for the government, they're also developing it like because that's how this stuff works. Is like even like guns. Like okay, so whatever guns the military is gonna buy for their soldiers to use like in combat, like their sidearms, right? Those pistols are divided. So what the government will put out a call and say, okay, we need a new sidearm, 9mm sidearm for our soldiers in combat, right? And then Smith and Wesson and Winchester, all these other fucking companies will get together, Glock, and they will develop a prototype for the government to look at. And then the government will look at all these different like sidearms, and they will pick the one that they feel is most reliable and most accurate and blah blah blah, and then they will buy 1 million of those from Smith and Wesson for their soldiers, right? And then these other prototypes that the other gun manufacturers developed, those will just be sold to the public, right? So
Okay.
like I assume that it's got to be kind of like the same thing where like jetpack technology, okay, so maybe the government has 3 different laboratories kind of develop jetpack prototypes, all right? and maybe one of them they actually end up buying the rights to, or like mass producing or doing further testing with. But these other prototypes exist and were designed. And that's what it sounds like it is, because like if this was some new type of alien that we're coming across, I think you would see it would be a little bit more widespread. Like why is this phenomenon like localized to Los Angeles in the first place? Well, if it's a dude with a jetpack that lives in Los Angeles, there's your explanation. If it's some kind of like alien creature or someone that came from outer space or another dimension, like why is the dude like hanging around LA and with a jetpack and stuff? You know what I mean? Like I don't think this is like a officially sanctioned like government exercise, but there could be ties to the military and research and development stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's possible. It's so weird, though. I mean, either way, it's a strange case, and
Right.
I think that it's definitely important for us to figure out what's going on. But the thing is that we don't even know for sure if it is a guy in a jetpack. That's just what it looks like. I mean, who knows what it is? Like you said, I guess it could be a cryptid, but I don't know. A cryptid. It could be Bigfoot guys with jetpack. It could be. Why not? I mean, you know. I don't
Yeah.
know, it could be. But it's probably not. Like I said, if it's when I say alien, what I don't mean that like it is an alien like with the jetpack. What I mean is that alien is an alien, some type of alien technology, right? I mean,
Sure.
for sure. I mean, and it could be a human piloting it. It could be an alien piloting. I don't know. There's no pictures of this thing, so we don't even know what it looks like.
Well,
But
I'm watching the video of it right now. Um, I mean, it's definitely a dude. I would say it's most likely. It's interesting.
I didn't
Um,
know there was a video of it.
oh yeah, it's like ABC 7 in LA. Let me see the date on this, just so I'm December. Oh, this is from last year, but it's December 24th, 2020. So maybe this isn't from the most recent
Oh yeah,
sighting, but from
yeah.
the previous one there is, and it definitely is humanoid, and it definitely could be a dude in a jetpack. But yeah, I think it's just somebody that got a hold of some technology that they shouldn't have, and he's fucking around. You know, I mean, that's crazy to me. I wouldn't go up that high in one of those things.
Right. No,
You know,
absolutely not. Right. I mean, it's just not safe. So, I mean, that's, I don't know. Maybe someday they'll reveal themselves and be like, I'm the jetpack guy. I don't know.
right?
So we'll see what happens there. But that's really all I had for the news. I thought that was notable that that guy was back. I did want to share an anecdote because here's the thing is that I will tell you right now. I will tell my anecdote and then we are going to get into the topic. And as you can see, it's another dark one and it's going to get really really dark and it's going to get really really gruesome. So this is your trigger warning right now. If you want to exit this episode, there's a lot of sexual assault and murder and horrible things that we're probably going to talk about, or we are going to talk about, and you should probably leave. But at least listen to my funny story first before you go, and also listen to my funny story before you stay and listen to all this fucked up shit. So my daughter's been going to skate camp, right? So skate camp happens at the skating rink and she just goes to the skating rink and they do stuff. So like our skating rink it's like a fun center also. So they've got like miniature golf and all kinds of stuff that they do, right? And so she's been there all week. But it reminded me of when I was a skating rink kid. Pat, were you ever a skating rink kid? Did you ever hang out at the skate rink?
Yeah, I did. That was kind of at the tail end of me growing up. I think eighth grade we had a couple class field trips to the skate rink, and I wasn't. My generation was like the rollerblade generation,
Mm-hmm.
so like I wasn't opposed to getting on roller skates and skating around, but I wasn't necessarily good at it. And
Sure.
I just remember me like doing couple skate with a girl, and then her complaining that my hand was sweaty, and
Oh no.
what a fucking bitch.
Was your hand sweaty?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. I was nervous and I was trying not to fucking face plant with this bitch next to me, like to a Mariah Carey song or something.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. I started going a lot. I went every weekend. I went every Friday and Saturday night. Every Friday and Saturday night for like a year. Okay. And the catalyst for this was to go for this was because my best friend one of my first boyfriends was her half brother, right? So it's her half brother, so he didn't live with her or anything. So we would go to the skating rink and he would be there, right? And and that was the only time I really got to see him. Like sometimes he would like she would see him like in passing because her dad would like show up at her house and like we would like pass notes off to each other and stuff like that. Sometimes I talked on the phone, but like the only time we really got to hang out was at the skating rink. Um, except I guess this was the a form of catfishing in the way. She didn't have a half brother. So we would go to the skating rink, okay, and there was a guy that she's like, "Oh, there he is. That's my brother. His name's Brandon." And I would go and like interact with this guy and like thought he was my boyfriend and he didn't know who the fuck I was. Didn't know who she was. And I was like legit think that this was my boyfriend. I had no idea that he didn't know and he didn't know what he didn't know and it was wild. So and I was thinking about it today because it's not really something I ever thought about. I don't know how I figured it out. I just think I don't know really what happened. Eventually she had moved and she moved to a different city, but yeah, so I would go and like hang out with this guy and I didn't understand like cuz sometimes he would like couple skate with like other girls and I would get upset. He didn't know this guy. I don't even know what the fuck his actual name was. I never even found out what his name was. And as far as like the notes and stuff, obviously they're written by her. And then, like, come to find out, the person I was talking to on the phone was actually her cousin Jimmy. Like, she would have him talk to me on the phone. I had no idea.
Did you ever confront her about this shit?
I never have. As an adult, we're friends on Facebook. Maybe I should.
Oh, I would.
Be like, what the fuck? What was up with that? But it's kind of hilarious. Like, this poor guy, he had no idea. And, like, it makes sense now because we would never, like, talk a whole bunch or anything like that. He was always kind of, I just thought maybe he was shy. He was always kind of just like, why are you talking to me? But like now I understand why he was like that. And like I said, I don't even know what his name was. So for whatever reason, you listen to the show, not Brandon. What the fuck's your name? What did you think? What did you think about it? I mean, he never told me off, so
your trigger warning should have included awkward,
super awkward,
prepubescent, like mistaken romances. Because I am like, we could just do it. You want to just do a show on this? Because I got like half a dozen stories I could fire out at you right now that are gonna like make you laugh your ass off, but at the same time be completely crushing to everybody hearing it. Because like that was like when you're like that, like seventh grade to like freshman year, like that you should be dating and you know that you're supposed to be coupling with people or like being romantic, but like and some of your friends are, but like you're not. And then you kind of like form these like happenstance like friendship type, not even like quasi friendships with people. And like, oh my god, like I remember going to my cousin's birthday party at Discovery Zone. Did they have Discovery Zone by you? It was like a bunch of ball pits and tubes and you crawl around. And
yeah, I mean we got shit like that.
Yeah, and my cousin's birthday, and there was some girl that was working there and she was probably 15 and I was probably like 13, but I'm a tall dude, so like I always attracted older people. And one of her coworkers came up to me and was like, "Yeah, my friend thinks you're cute," and I like didn't know what to do. And then like I was like, and I gave her like a fake name because I thought I was being funny or something, but I had no idea how to get a hold of this person again. And like I wanted to go back up there, and like, but no one drove.
Oh no!
Or like at the park. Oh my god, I'm not even gonna get into all these stories.
No, I definitely had a different, I definitely had a different type of child because, like, my story that I told, I was 10, so like,
oh shit,
yeah, so I had a way different life than a lot of people. But that's so anyway. Maybe one day, maybe we'll talk, we'll swap embarrassing, awkward stories. I don't know. I mean, I don't really. My stories are just mostly depressing. Sounds awful,
Jesus.
but they are. But I did think that was kind of funny and kind of wholesome and safe enough to tell him the show. So,
No, not me.
Anyway,
I was a lonely, desperate, horny little fucking kid.
oh no, I was. I mean, I was lonely and desperate. I'm not gonna. I'm not. It's again, it's very dark, so
Right. Like you said,
I won't get into it.
I would rather talk about the murder duos than fucking rehash all that shit right now.
Fair enough. So, so while we like I said, we were in Springfield, Ohio. We went to Schuler's Bakery, and I told you I was extremely embarrassed because my sister took pictures and stuff like that. Um, Schuler's Bakery again. It's world famous because it's obviously got the best damn donuts in the world, and they do. And you know that's coming from somebody that doesn't. I don't really like sweets and stuff, but I always go to Schuler's anyway. Um, Schuler's Bakery is located on East Main Street in Springfield, Ohio. And when you park in Schuler's parking lot, you'll notice that it it sits at the bottom of a hill. Okay, and when you look behind the bakery, the hill just kind of goes up and up and up. And on the hill is an alley. Okay, where people can drive and whatnot. Um, Back in 1992. Two 12-year-old girls by the names of Free Morrow and Martha Leach were taken to behind Schuler's Bakery to a little area that the kids used to go to hang out at. They called it the Lion's Cage. And there is like a little area there. Like there's a little makeshift shitty pond and like a storm like gate, storm drainage thing, you know, that you can go into and hang out. People just go smoke pot and whatever. But they were taken back there by three men, one of them being William Sapp, who we'll kind of get into a little bit more. And back behind Schuler's Bakery, where happiness lives, they were tortured and raped and killed. And it's something that, you know, if you live in Springfield, everybody knows about William Sapp because the guy, this wasn't the first, well, I'm sorry, no, I believe this was the first time he had killed. It wasn't the last time. He ended up becoming a serial killer. And eventually he was caught. So, and now he's in prison for the rest of his life. But there were, I think, a total of 5 or 6 people there. It was a lot of people. I mean, it was a big group of people. So you had William Sapp, and then the other people, a guy named John Balger, I think is how you say it. David Marcheski were there. Originally, it was them 3. And then what's his name? Balger was mentally disabled, and he had gone home in the middle of attacking these girls, and his mom was there, and he told his mom, "Hey, mom, I'm in trouble," and she's like, "Why?" So the mom and his stepdad then came to the scene of the crime and saw these girls passed out, and the mom was like, "Well, you have to kill them," and then they all decided to kill them, and a group of them all decided to slaughter these girls. And it was a very horrific crime. I don't think that I need to get into the details of exactly what happened. But it's all bad, right? And then they dumped their bodies, you know, right there. I mean, they just left their bodies there, and then they went and you know, went on about their day, and they were found the next day. But you know, you know that you can see it. As a matter of fact, that pond that they referred to as a lion's cage, now a private investor bought it and turned it into a children's memorial for Free and Martha. And you can go, and it's actually a really beautiful kind of place. So you know, I went and checked. I'd never actually checked it out before. I grew up in Springfield. I lived there for, you know, half of my life, but I never been because, you know, I was a kid. So but you know, as an adult, I finally did go, and they did turn it into something beautiful. Considering how tragic that was. But very interesting how much the mob mentality took over, because what had happened was William Sapp and his buddies were just kind of gross guys, and they were just being gross to these 12-year-old girls. And let's be honest, the 12-year-old girls, I'm not saying they were asking for it. They're children. They don't know. But they were probably very, you know, I guess the term is fast, you know? So they were probably enjoying the attention a little bit, especially because if you know Springfield, you know the type of people that live there. You know, this is something that I know. I grew up there. I was 12 in Springfield, and I know what it's like to be 12 years old in Springfield, Ohio. It's exciting. But when William Sapp went to go make a move on one of the girls, it went bad. And she was not receiving it, and she told him off. She told one of the other guys off. and they just decided, well, you know what, we're adult men, we're going to do what we want to do, and they decided to do what they want to do. So that is very interesting how quickly these kinds of situations can take over, because we had talked about last week how weird it is to find other people that are willing to kill with you, you know. Now we're talking about a group of people, not even just a group of people, two other people then entered into the crime scene. And instead of stepping in and going, this is wrong, let's at least go take these girls to the hospital, they insisted that they needed to die.
Yeah, especially because of the person's mother. I mean, that's so dark, you know.
Right.
I mean, you get that like she's trying to defend her, she's trying to protect her son, but I mean, how off kilter does her moral compass need to be to where that's what it starts pointing to when she
Right. Kill
realizes
them.
this kind
Right.
of crime's been committed, you know?
And yeah, it's wild. Now they're all in prison. Like I said, William Sapp, he's technically classified as a serial killer. He only other killed one other person. It was a prostitute, and he buried her in his garage and the dirt. Or I don't think it was his garage. I think it was some abandoned house garage in Springfield. And then he went on to go attack another woman, and she lived. Now that woman, he stabbed her in the stomach and slit her from ear to ear, and she survived. And he left her at no, she was found at Clark State Community College in Springfield, Ohio. My mother was a student there at the time, and it was pretty wild. So this is obviously kind of a more personal case because it's small, kind of small town living. Everybody knows everybody, and again, my mom was kind of there at ground zero when old girl was found, but she lived, and that's how they were able to catch him. But that was in 1996. The other men involved in the crime were convicted right away of murdering Free and Martha. They were convicted, and well, they were convicted in 94, but pretty
Hmm.
much they were caught immediately. But William Sapp was not. They couldn't hold him accountable to anything. Meanwhile, he was the ringleader of all this.
Yeah.
And they didn't tie him to the scene. And the only reason why they did was because the woman that he had attacked, they DNA tested her. He raped her, so the DNA tested her. There was semen, and he was the missing piece of the DNA test from Free and Martha, and that's how he got caught. They're all in prison, thankfully. Even the mom, even the people that were there that watched it happen, they're all in prison. They will die in prison most likely.
Good.
William Sapp has received the death penalty, but I don't think we've killed anybody in Ohio for a very long time, so I don't think we will. But but like you said, yeah, how dark and how strange to go from that extreme to another. And then they all just kind of were like, hey, what do you do after that? And then what? You go to Schuler's and get some donuts, and you're just like, hey, I just killed somebody. It's fine. It's weird. It's weird.
Hmm.
Because if I were in a group of people, I suppose the bigger the group is, if you got one person that I'm sure you'll have the person. And in some of these cases, you do have the one person, or maybe even two of them, that then become afraid of stepping up and going, you know what, this is wrong. you know um they're obviously fearful for their life because they're watching you kill people, like that's but I don't think this was one of those cases. They all interacted. The only person that didn't sexually assault these girls was the mother, and we don't even know. She might have. We don't know. She could have.
Yeah, that's so weird and dark, and you wonder what was actually being said when it was happening. What was
The whole conversation, yeah.
Yeah, was it something where it's like, okay, we have to do this now, or was it that they all wanted to, because after the fact,
Yeah.
everyone's going to try to act like they were forced into it, or I didn't want to, or blah
Right.
blah blah. This person was the ringleader, but and maybe that is the case. I wasn't there, but you know, it's either that's the case or it's not. And if it's not, then what was it? Was
Hmm.
this a concerted effort amongst a group of people to get together and commit this like totally fucking sick and heinous act with these people, and then for the mother to kind of get dragged into it and get swept up in it and keep keep it going, and not
Right.
no one slammed on the brakes. Maybe you could say, oh, I wanted to but I was too afraid, but hey, you can walk away, you can run away. There's a lot of different ways that you could at least remove yourself from the situation, if not the girls.
Right.
and
Well,
nobody
and
even did
like the
that.
crazy thing about it that I still find, because I'll tell you, I've been to Schuler. Knowing this case, I've been to Schuler's, and every time I go, I'm always like, where did this happen at? Like, I don't understand, because let me tell you something. That area right behind Schuler's, it's not like, it's like, yeah, there's some trees, but where it's located, it's a very kind of historic part of town. So like all those buildings and stuff that are there, they've been there. They've been there since way before the 90s, you know. So I'm like looking at the area and I'm like, how, like, what did they replace the spot that this happened at? And then, come to find out that, exactly when you're standing in the Schuler's parking lot, you look up and you see the Children's Memorial. That's where this happened. And it's out in the fucking open, out in the open. And it was fucking broad daylight and this happened. And
Mm.
it blows my fucking mind as to how it even, I mean, other people had to have seen what, and I think maybe that's why they confessed, is because they knew it was so out in the open. I mean, how do you not know? And I've got pictures of it. I'll post pictures of the area. But my mom's like, well, there used to be more trees, but it wasn't, in 92, I was born in 91, so I don't know. But, she's like, yeah, there was more trees, but not like, it wasn't like it was a heavily wooded area or anything. And it's like, well, okay. They just went right behind the wall there, and that's where it happened. Again, right in front of everybody, And I can't wrap my head around, how that even was possible. So, but you're right. Then for somebody to come in, had the chance to be like, you know what, this needs to stop, because they weren't dead yet, and instead was like, yeah, well, got to kill them now. It's fine.
Well,
And
you ever see the movie The Accused?
I have not.
So it's with Jodie Foster, and she's drinking at a bar one night, and she gets fucked up, and she's kind of being flirty and shit. She gets raped on top of a pinball machine. It's kind of a famous movie, in front of a bar full of people, and there's three guys that do it, and there's a entire bar full of people that watch, and this happens to her, and then she stumbles outside and she ends up going to the hospital. And the movie is kind of like the court case. Tom Cruise's girlfriend in Top Gun is the lawyer, Kelly McGillis, and it's based on a true story. You'd be surprised what the fuck people like.
Oh
We
yeah.
like to act like we're like we're a civilized society, but there's a lot of dark motherfuckers out there, and there's a lot of people that wouldn't be exposed to a crime like that, will look the other way, and there's a lot of people that'll fucking stand there and cheer and try to get involved. Like,
Well, right, and that's, we talked about a film that comes to mind for me when I think about things like this, which we've got more cases to share, and we will in a moment. But
right,
and like I said, we talked about this movie before, and that was Stoic, and I had to turn it off because and I don't get disturbed easily. I mean, I wrote disturbing horror movie reviews. That's my jam, but I had to turn it off because that's basically what it's about. Is that these guys in a prison cell decide to torture this guy in the cell. And what makes it interesting is that it shows the different sides of the story. So you got the three guys who survived, and then obviously one guy's dead. You've got the three guys telling their account of what happened, and then it shows you what actually happened. And it's a very good psychological study into things like this, because of course then they're just trying to kind of save their own ass. Sometimes different things kind of break through as to why they let things happen, like, oh, I was scared of the other guy, or whatever. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. They still killed that guy, in a
mm-hmm.
horrible way. And that's just kind of that's kind of, I guess when you think about these things, mob mentality. Lake Eden, or I'm sorry, was it Eden Lake? Eden Lake is a very good example of tribalism. Which I'm not going to give it away. Not tribalism, but the mob mentality and how easy it is for people to slip into that. That's also another really good one to watch. I recommend that over Stoic. Stoic's hard, but if you're into the hard stuff, go that way. But otherwise, go to Eden Lake. That's another good one. But it showcases that very well. So it is interesting, but obviously, again, I said we have different cases to share, and I feel like the different cases all have different reasons for why these people decided to kill together. In the case of Free Morrow and Martha Leach, I think with them and their attackers, I just think it was a heat of the moment situation. I don't think that they planned it,
Hmm.
which is even weirder because again, I just can't imagine going over to my buddy's house. We're like, hey, let's go rape and kill these kids. I mean, but I do think that at the end of the day, that is what happened. I do believe that William Sapp himself is a very dangerous individual. Obviously, the rest of the people involved were also dangerous. But I think that had they not been there that day, I don't think they would have went on to kill people or rape anybody, or I don't think they would have. I don't think that that would have ever crossed their mind. But because they were met with the opportunity to do so, they took it and they did it. And so I think that that's probably what happened there. Um, but then we have other things. Pat, what do you got?
Yeah, the first case I wanted to talk about, both of mine are kind of more famous or infamous or whatever, but
Sure.
the Leopold and Loeb case, uh, which was two wealthy students from the University of Chicago who, in May of 1924, kidnapped and murdered a 14-year-old boy, Bobby Franks. And they were Leopold and Loeb were two very intelligent young men. And both had been, skipped ahead in grades in school and were doing well in college. And killed this kid who was actually one of their second cousins, just to see if they could get away with the perfect crime. And they had started out. One of the two was kind of like interested in criminology and wanted to try to commit crimes and then figure out ways to cover them up. And there's a lot of speculation that these two guys were actually lovers as well.
Yeah,
I read a lot of different things in preparation for this episode, although I'm still going to fudge details and
that's okay.
speak in generalities. But like when it comes to these two being lovers, like there's not a whole lot of proof for it. Um, there's no definitive evidence. There's no definitive statement that anyone gave.
Well, this was a
But
different time.
it was a different time. Yeah, it was the 1920s. All of and this is a story that was very famous and was turned into a lot of different movies and there was books written about it and all kinds of stuff. And probably the how this story popped up on my radar was Hitchcock made a movie called Rope, which was based on a stage play by the same name, which was based on this case. And in the stage play and the Hitchcock movie, it is very heavily alluded that these two were romantic partners, and they did this out of some sick, perverse game that homosexual men seem to play, which is funny because that's also the basis of my second case that I'm going to bring up tonight. But yeah, so these two guys, it was at the time it was dubbed the crime of the century, which is kind of ridiculous because they were caught like a couple weeks after the murder. Basically, what they tried to do is they had targeted this 14-year-old boy and got the boy to go in a car with them because they all knew each other. They were from the same neighborhood and they were second cousins. And while the boy was in the car, they beat and killed him and then drove him out to Indiana, where they stuffed the body in a drainage ditch and poured acid over his genitalia first to cover up the fact that he was circumcised, which seems like such a weird
That's so weird.
it's a weird detail to try to fucking fudge. But in the process, like the one dude dropped his glasses, which is eventually how they're caught, because these guys were like very, very wealthy, and the type of glasses that he had, only there was like three people in Chicago that had this special type of like frame, right? So that's eventually how the police ended up tracing the murder back to them. But they go and they dispose of the body. And originally, what they wanted to do was string the family along long enough to try to get money out of them. Just not that they needed the money, but just to kind of like that was their fucking plan was to act like it was a kidnapping and
Right.
try to get the money out of the victim's parents. But the body was discovered like almost immediately because they did such a shitty job of hiding it. And so then the family knew that it wasn't a kidnapping, it was a murder. And then within a couple weeks, the police had their sights set on these two, and eventually they both confessed. So at the time, though, it was a very once again, this was about 100 years ago. it was a very sensationalized story.
Yeah.
And the fact that these were young, upper class, very well educated white men. And then, of course, there's the homosexual subtext.
Sure.
And it got a lot of attention in the press. It was it was dubbed the crime of the century, which, like I said, kind of a shitty crime.
Yeah, it's really not that. I mean, we kind of talked about it before the show, and you were like, "Well, there really wasn't that much," kind of just unimpressed by it. I mean, as bad as that sounds, for guys that really just wanted to kind of prove that they can get away with a murder, well, they fucking failed, didn't they?
Right. Like the one guy had an IQ of 200,
That's
but he
pretty
was
sad.
a sexual pervert. But it's like, there's dumber people that have pulled off more like intricate crimes
Right.
and actually gotten away with it with
Right.
far less formal education. But at the time it was kind of like, and this, like I said, this is a very famous case, so it's not like I'm just pulling this random shitty case off of Wikipedia to talk about on tonight's show.
People talk about this a lot as like a
Yeah.
staple in like true crime, and it's interesting because there really wasn't that much. It wasn't. I mean, it wasn't great, but it wasn't terribly gruesome. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't.
Well, I think what the sticking point for a lot of people was, and this is kind of like really what we're focusing on tonight with tonight's show, was the murderers. The fact that like
They
what
did it together, right?
propelled these two people, it wasn't a crime of passion. It was definitely premeditated, and it was rich, bored, intelligent, seemingly intelligent people. It could be your son. It could be
I
your
think
neighbor.
that
White
in a
America,
way,
yeah.
well, I was saying, I think that in a way, people talk about the, possible homosexual aspect to it, whether or not they knew that they had feelings for each other, or whatever. They obviously had something deeper going on to where they could let their egos go and admit to each other that their ego was so large that they could get away with murder. Like that's, and I think that that's what it comes down to, is that they just thought they just had this self-inflated version of themselves where they thought that they could do no wrong. And now people try to quote affluenza. I don't know if you are familiar with that case. There was like a teenager who like killed somebody in a hit and run accident and
And
blamed it
then
on
ran down to Mexico. Yeah, trying to act like
affluenza. And it's like affluenza isn't a thing. It's not. Oh, I'm too rich. I have mental illness because of how rich I am. And it's like, what?
well,
you
this
know,
their explanation for why they did it was that um, they kind of had been corrupted by like the teachings of Friedrich Nietzsche, and his idea of the Ubermensch, the Supermen,
yeah,
and that they were, because they were so intelligent, they were so upper class, that they were exempt from normal morality, and they could do things and be unbound by society's restraints.
right.
And I mean, there was also something that, like, the one guy was homosexual, and that, and I don't want to say the wrong one. I personally, I think it's entirely possible that neither one of them were, and this is just something,
Sure.
because they never gave an interview where they said that they were. This thing about them being gay seems to be something that was very much put on the story by people on the press and people that dramatized the story after the fact. There
Right.
was there was nothing in any of the evidence that they found. No one ever walked in the room and saw them fucking each other. And in fact, one of the killers was eventually killed in jail, um, fighting off a cellmate. That the cellmate said that he killed the guy because the guy tried to assault him in the shower, and they ended up finding out that wasn't true at all. It was probably the other way around. So like there was no there was no evidence that these two were actually homosexual lovers. But the theory is that Loeb, who was supposedly the homosexual, uh, agreed to participate in Leopold's eccentric sexual practices in return for Leopold's cooperation with the criminal endeavors. So Loeb was actually, they were both gay, but Loeb was the one who wanted to see what it was like to kill somebody, and that he kind of seduced this other guy into helping him. Because, the one thing I will say about that time is if they were two closeted males, they had very few options. So, if you find someone that's willing to fucking play around with you, I guess you got to do what you got to do to keep them happy. And in this case, it was, killing this 14-year-old boy.
Right, right. And, it's, well, it's so weird. It's such a weird, because they were intelligent. They had a whole, it's not like they didn't have anything to lose. One of them, well, maybe both of them, but gosh, I get them mixed up all the time. One of them had won like some award or something, right? I mean, they were really, really smart.
Oh yeah, the one Loeb's family. His dad was the retired vice president of Sears Roebuck and Company.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, like they had fucking crazy amounts of money, and 17 years old and graduated from the University of Michigan. Like they were fucking geniuses.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of times those fucking real smart kids, like I knew them in school. Like I had a couple honors classes and I had one AP history class, and it was like a different world because you would go through most of how my high school worked. It was all boys, but if you were an honor student, you were pretty much all in honors classes, and you didn't really associate with the non-honor students unless it was at gym, religion class, or lunch.
Yeah.
So they kind of, honestly, most of the time, because they had their own set schedule, those people, you would go through all 4 years in high school, and like you would never even get to know some of these kids because they were just in that other tract. And
Right.
me, I kind of went back and forth. Like I had advanced math, but like I was in normal other classes and AP history. So like I would get to know some of these people, and then a lot of my friends were in all honors classes, so I would kind of get to know them through them. And yeah, they were fucking weird, and it was just, I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way, but like, you're a step off from the rest of society. If the rest of society has, if everything in culture is geared towards someone with an IQ of 90 and you have an IQ of 200, it doesn't even, you might as well be a fucking Martian.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
genetically speaking, like they were a cut above your average man, and that's why they got high on their own bullshit and this you know Nietzschean fucking idea that they were Supermen.
Right.
Now, how that transfers over to we can indiscriminately kill and get away with it, I don't know about that. And they certainly made a lot of really fucking stupid mistakes when they were carrying out the crime. So I think
Right.
something is to be said about being able to keep your head under pressure, and no amount of intelligence is going to automatically make stop you from being a bitch when the fucking heat's on. And that's
Right.
kind of what happened with them, is that a lot of these criminals that probably are career criminals and are much successful and pull off much longer crime sprees and get away with it. It's kind of because they keep their head under pressure a lot, and they don't leave stupid fucking evidence and stuff behind. You know what I mean? And that's
Well,
exactly what these guys did.
right, right. And yes. Yeah. Um but I think that the thing is that, they knew that they were leaving evidence behind. They weren't trying to hide it. I think that they were kind of getting off on the fact that they thought that they could do it. Everybody could know that they do it, and then they got away with it. I think that for whatever reason they thought maybe
Mm.
they could pay somebody off, that they could just talk their way out of it, and just, I mean, I don't know. Obviously I've never killed anybody, so, well, as far as you guys know, but you know I haven't. But there was something going on there where like I said, I think that ego probably did come into play a lot. I'm not, I mean, I'm familiar with this case. Again, true crime's my other thing. That was my major. That's what I was going to college for. And so I know of it, but I'm not extremely well versed in it to comment, in too much detail what I thought happened. However, look at the big difference here between the previous case, the William Sapp case, and these guys. And they definitely have different goals in mind. So we can, and very, a very large contrast, because William Sapp and his gang are from shitty Springfield, Ohio, and have probably been poverty stricken their entire life. That's why they live in Springfield. And then you got money and power at play here.
These
So
highfalutin Chicago people.
no, it's Chicago the rest of the way downhill here, isn't it? Well, the rest of our cases are Chicago cases. That's right. Which will show that there's big variety there as well.
Right.
So but I don't know. What do you guys think so far? Well, I guess you're not really talking to us, but if comment on these cases as they go along. Kind of think of what you want to say about them. I mean, with that being said, do we want to move on to the next one?
Sure. So keeping in the same vein of
Chicago?
intelligent white homosexual killers from Chicago, kind of topic I seemingly know a lot about. This one's actually this investigation is still ongoing, something I didn't know about. I mean, it happened in 2017, so I would think that it would have gone to trial by now, but I guess it hasn't. So this is all still alleged, right? Which I'm probably going to forget to say a lot, but the people here are suspects. All this stuff is alleged. Nobody's been convicted of anything yet, although one person has, confessed and incriminated the other person. But basically, in July of 2017, a fatal stabbing occurred at Wyndham Latham's apartment in the River North area of Chicago. Wyndham Latham was a former associate professor of microbiology and immunology at the Feinberg School of Medicine at Northwestern University. He is a specialist in pathogenic bacteria, specifically in the plague. And actually, I remember last year he petitioned to be let out on bail so that he could assist with finding the cure for COVID.
I was wondering about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember hearing about that?
No, I didn't. I haven't heard about it, but I just hearing his background, I was just thinking, well, wow, he really fucked up.
Right? No. His lawyers petitioned the judge to let him work on, because he was one of the guys that you would want working on,
right,
the vaccine, and they said fucking no. So basically, he met a guy online, a British citizen, by the name of Andrew Warren, and Andrew Warren left England and flew to Chicago to help Wyndham Latham allegedly murder his boyfriend, Latham's boyfriend. Both of these guys were in their 50s. The boyfriend, the victim here, Trent Cornell Durlanow, he was 26. And what happened was Warren flew to Chicago. They hung out for a few days. They invited this guy over, and then they fucking stabbed him and killed him. And then they went on the run, and they went to Lake Geneva, Wisconsin for a little bit, as one does, and then eventually went to Oakland, California, where I think they were tracked down and surrendered, to the police. Now Warren, the guy from Britain, like almost immediately confessed to everything. And Wyndham Latham sent a video message to his family saying, let me quote this because I don't want to get this wrong. Basically said like, it wasn't intentional, but it wasn't an accident. I don't want to get this wrong. But anyway, it doesn't matter. You think this was something I would have highlighted in my notes, but unfortunately I don't.
That's okay.
But originally the two guys were going to kill the kid, they were going to kill the 26-year-old, and then they were going to kill each other, and that didn't happen. The young guy had fallen asleep, and when the British guy came over, Latham showed Warren a 6-inch drywall knife saw and gave him a cell phone with instructions to record video of Latham fatally stabbing Cornell, which is the younger guy. And that's exactly what they said happened. And when in the middle of it, the guy woke up. I don't know if any of you people are handy out there, but drywall knives they're kind of scary looking, but they're not
Yeah.
like really murder weapons. And the blades are kind of flimsy because you want the blade to have some give to it so that you can kind of cut around areas of the drywall if you need to.
Yeah,
So
they're
if
not
you
a good
imagine
murder weapon.
what?
They're not a good murder weapon.
Right, like, well, they're sharp and scary looking, but if you start thinking about it, once you start penetrating the person, it's really easy for the blade to get bent.
It'll snap as soon as it hits bone.
Yeah, it's not what I would use at all. But as Warren stood in the doorway to the bedroom with his cell phone in hand, Latham stabbed the sleeping Cornell repeatedly. He awakened, screamed, and fought back. Latham cried for Warren to help, so Warren walked in, put his hand over the victim's mouth, and then hit him in the head with a heavy metal lamp. The attack left Cornell nearly decapitated. He bled to death in the bedroom. His attacker showered and then tried to clean up the scene. Then they left the apartment in the early morning and went to Lake Geneva, Wisconsin.
Wow.
Right. And so there's a lot about this case that hasn't come out yet because there hasn't been a formal trial. But what we do know is that these two guys met each other on a website, and kind of like what we were talking about with the cannibal last week, they had discussed all this stuff,
Right.
and had probably spent many hours masturbating online to the idea
Oh gosh.
of them, killing someone else and then killing each other.
Sure.
And this is what they planned on. And then this dude got on a fucking plane.
Yeah.
And they all both had boyfriends too. So this British guy had a boyfriend, and got on a plane, and then flew to the United States to do all this, and they fucking did it. So yeah, this was. Let's see what else I got in my notes here.
So they don't, but like you said, there's not too much about it yet because it's.
Well, it's because it hasn't gone to trial, so a lot of the details now there's stuff that's been like released to the grand jury, and then in Warren's confession, there was stuff that came out, and the press are obviously fucking. This is, I have a feeling this is going to be, you want to talk about the crime of the century or something like that. Like this is going to end up being just as big of a case as the Leopold and Loeb one. This might.
I haven't heard of this, and I think that's shocked. Like I had just heard about it because you brought it to my attention, and so I'm.
Yeah, it was over kind of quick. They weren't on the run for that long. It wasn't that long of a manhunt. It was only about a week, if even that. I think it was like a long weekend. And like I said, has not gone to trial yet. So once it goes to trial and all of these details start to emerge, I'm sure there'll be a renewed amount of interest, and then there'll be the dramatizations. There'll be the Law and Order episode about it. There'll be a TV movie. There'll be books written, and all of this stuff will kind of come out. But because nobody's been convicted yet, there's not a whole lot that you can say. And I think you don't want to, if God forbid this guy was found innocent, or you find out that one guy pressured the other guy, and it doesn't look like it's going to go that way. Right.
Well,
it looks like we pretty much know the basics right now, but yeah, I mean, the fact that once again, two very intelligent. I mean, this guy was a fucking college professor at Northwestern. He was one of the premier microbiologists in his field. So much so that like he would have been one of the people to work on the COVID vaccine, and you know what I mean. Very, very intelligent, very highly respected. Just found some dude online that wanted to jerk off and talk about killing their boyfriends, and got together and did it.
And it's right. I mean, that's so risky. Like, how many people do you think that both of them, and this information might come out later, or at least a rough estimate. How many people do you think that they both separately told other people that they wanted to kill somebody? And it's like, realistically, what could have we even done to stop that from happening because they hadn't committed a crime? Talking about killing somebody, I guess you've got conspiring to murder, but you know it's really not a crime.
It reminds me of something that they used to tell us. I went through 12 years of Catholic school, and something that they used to always tell you is to not get tempted by the little things, because eventually the little things become the big things, right?
Right.
Like, don't make out with a girl. Be careful about making out with a girl, because that might lead to, first base leads to second base, leads to third base, yada, yada, yada. And, if you keep thinking that you're going to only go so far and then slam on the brakes, eventually those brakes get worn down. And the next thing you know, you're fucking her in your parents' basement, which was my goal from day one.
Well, okay.
Right. So
Well,
I never really worried about that. But you got to think about it, like these guys, like, and same thing with the cannibal thing. At first it's all just talk. At first it's
right.
just two guys with an ocean between them, or different parts of Germany or whatever, right? Two people just talking shit, saying, you know what we should do? We should do this. And somebody thinks it's a good idea, and somebody takes the first step, and somebody takes the second step, and then somebody takes the third step, and you get to the point where you look back and you realize you come this fucking far, right? Like, if that guy hadn't got on the plane and flew over from England, would the other guy have killed the boyfriend that was sleeping in the extra bedroom?
To begin with, right?
Maybe
Well, right.
not.
It's like a challenge. It's like, oh, you're not gonna talk to me about murdering my boyfriend, and he was like, oh, I'm talking to you about it. What are you gonna do? Well, you're not gonna get on the plane and come over here. Oh, I won't.
And
Watch me.
yeah, maybe the guy that got on the plane figured, I'm going to show up. I'm going to fly over there. I'm going
And
to get off the
he's
plane.
bluffing.
He's going to pick me up at the airport. He's going to fucking blow me in the parking garage. And we're going to go to Planet Hollywood. And then I'll be back here in 3 days. You know what
Maybe
I mean?
we'll go to Lake Geneva.
As one does. So, like, I'm sure everyone expected the other one to be the one to slam on the brakes.
Yeah.
And then you get two people looking at each other, and these people did express remorse almost immediately. Like, the one guy confessed, and the other guy sent a video. Wyndham Latham sent a video to somebody saying that to his family, like, kind of apologizing and all this stuff. And they turned themselves into the police, and it was they.
Well, I mean, well, first of all, hold on a second. I just don't want to skip over the fact that, like, you really. I'm impressed. I'm impressed because you really just used an abstinence speech and applied it to murder. That's pretty amazing, actually. Good on you, Pat. But
Here's 12 years of Catholic school. I mean, it pays off.
Maybe we'll talk about that one of these days.
If you don't want to smell like garbage, you got to stay out of the dump.
Well, but no, in all seriousness, I mean, I think you're probably right. I think in this case, it was just, they got to the
incremental.
Point.
Yeah.
Yes.
The battle of inches.
Of no return, right? They just continued to do it. I think they really didn't even think about it once things went in motion. I don't think that they really had stopped to think, is this okay? Now, I see that as more similar to like the William Sapp situation. I think that they had hit that certain point. I mean, I think the mom is a piece of shit because she hadn't hit that certain point yet. She didn't do anything wrong. She should have been like, oh, wait a minute now. But everybody else in that case, I think that they hit that point, of no return. And these guys, obviously did as well. I'm curious to see what the discovery says when it comes out. I mean, I definitely want to see, how the case goes. I'm surprised there hasn't been a trial yet.
I guess I was on a murder trial and where I was a juror. And I want to say it was like 5 years after the crime had been committed. Like,
you had to correct yourself. Like, I was on a murder trial once. Wait a minute.
As a juror, but yeah, it was like we were hearing the case in like 2019, and it was for a murder that happened in like 2015. Like, was he guilty or? Oh, I mean, he fucking did it.
Did you? Okay, you think he did it? Was
Did
it?
I
But
did I
did you
never
guys
tell you
agree?
about this?
I don't know anything about this. No,
The
that's
dude was like a
crazy.
famous rapper too. Like you could buy his
Oh,
shit off like on iTunes. I don't want to. I honestly I don't want to
don't
go.
endorse him. No, that's all right.
No, not only that, but like I don't. It, it really fucked me up. I will say this, and then we can get on to the last case because I really want to talk about it. It really did fuck me up. Like I didn't even think about it at the time when we were going through this case, but like I'm sitting on the juror, and it was a gang thing, and like I was just like, whatever. He did it. We voted him guilty. Did it. I went home that night and got real paranoid that like there was going to be some kind of like retribution against me and my family.
Oh,
And I couldn't sleep for a good day or two, thinking that the gang that he was a part of were going to come after me, and they didn't. I mean,
sure. Well, yeah, yes,
it's
you
been like
still
two
did.
years. Like they ain't coming after me.
Well, then COVID happened. Obviously, they're waiting for the. They're social distancing right now. So I'm just
Sure,
kidding.
sure, but I mean, I didn't expect to have that, and I don't want to use PTSD because I think sometimes it gets thrown around too lightly, and God knows there's people that have really been through some real fucking traumatic shit. But it fucked with me for a little bit.
No,
It's
no. I mean, it left a mark. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
it
the
took a
thing.
little bit for me to like kind of put the whole thing behind me, and now I think back about it and I laugh. But at the time, it was not funny. It was like I remember trial was over, drove home that night, and was real happy. And me and my family went out to dinner, and we were sitting at dinner, and I remember the moment when it all started to click in my head that we could potentially be in danger, and like it was something
I'll
else.
tell you. My one of my really good friends died in 2015. Okay, so when this happened, I was devastated. It was very sudden. It was my best friend's brother, but not just my best friend's brother. It was my best friend's twin. So it was devastating. It
Yeah,
was really devastating for a lot of people. And maybe we'll talk about that case one day because it's fucking insane. But I was upset and I was supposed to go to work. I was working at the movie theater at the time, and I started driving into work, and I was like, you know what, I can't do this. So I went back home. I called off. They were cool, and I called one of my friends, and I was like, hey, I pulled up into the parking lot of my apartment building, and I'm sitting in my car. I'm like, hey, I'm really upset. Can you come pick me up? Maybe we can hang out. She's like, yeah, sure, I'll be there in a minute. So I got on the phone with her and I'm waiting for her to show up. I lived on the third floor, so I didn't want to, go up to my house to wait, 10 minutes just to come back. So I just stayed in the car. And while I'm sitting in the car, out from my apartment building walked this group of people. And there's four men. And there's one kind of walking off to the side leading the group. And then the other three, it was two men. And in the middle of the men is a guy that the two men on either side is like helping guide to the car, and he's got his hands are bound in front of him, and he's wearing this like executioner's hood. Like, I shit you not. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? And all the men that were like leading this guy, and they were taking him to their car. They drove a black Jeep Pilot. I remember that. And all these men, they're all dressed in all black. I believe they were armed, but I didn't know because my brain didn't know what the fuck it was saying. And I'm like, what is going on? And I like duck down on my car and I'm like watching through my rearview mirror, and they put this guy in the car and they leave. And I'm like, what? So I called the police immediately. I called the police and told them what was going on, and they were like, "Well, did you get the license plate?" I'm like, "No, I know, I couldn't see it, and I couldn't see it. I tried, I couldn't see it, And the cops pulled in to the building, and then they weren't there, obviously, and then they pulled out, but they never stopped to talk to me. And I still to this day don't know what the fuck I saw. No idea what that was. Could have been a bachelor party. It could have been something worse. I don't know. But the very next day, I was very upset by this. I was already not in a good state of mind because, again, I was dealing with the death of somebody close to me. And, then I wake up the next morning and my windows are open and the police are outside and they're talking to people in the parking lot. And I hear them talking about me and my car. And I was like, what's going on? So I call my mom and I start to tell her. And I told her what I'd seen the day before.
hmm
And I'm like trying to tell her really quietly because my windows are open and I don't want anybody here because I was scared that maybe somebody saw that I was out there. I'm like, and she's like, oh, you're just overreacting. Just go out there and figure out what's going on. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? My mom, then again, she's kind of hardened. But I was very upset. It turned out somebody was breaking into people's cars, which I don't know if that was related or not. but that's why the police were there. That's why they were discussing me and my vehicle. But I don't know. Still to this day, I have no idea what that was. But here's the crazy part. And every time I say this, it sounds hilarious because it kind of is, but I don't know. It's just an added element to the story. One of the guys, the guy that was standing on the other side of the guy, walking him, the guy, he was a fucking, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this term. He was a little people. He was a midget. I'm not kidding. So I don't know. So I mean, that kind of helps because I'm like, well, maybe it was then some bachelor party thing, and that's all it was. But I don't know.
Well, it's very doubtful that he was. I don't know.
It was weird.
So one time I was on acid, and it was the 4th of July, and me and my friends were all on acid, and we were hanging on my buddy's front porch, and he lived a second house from the corner of his block. And we're sitting there and we're listening to Pantera and we're laughing and having a good time. And we hear car tires screech. And from around the corner, this old 1970s fucking car comes peeling around the corner like a bat out of hell. And there's a dude hanging out of the passenger side window with his legs kicking up in the air. And as it makes the turn, the fucking guy falls out of the car and starts rolling. And the car peels off down the street. And we're like looking at this and we're laughing like, holy shit. Like, what the fuck? And the guy fucking sits up on the street and he's screaming at the car and shaking his fist as he drives away. And then from the same street comes running a little person after the car, and he runs up alongside the guy and he helps him up, and the little person and the guy that fell out of the car hobble their way back around the corner. And we're laughing hysterically. We're like, what the fuck? Are you fucking serious?
I don't know if any of that actually happened. I think you guys were just
did.
No, it did.
And we manifested that shit, and we were just like,
oh my! Moment.
It was a beautiful moment. We're like, and we were just like laughing our ass off, and they fucking walked back around the corner, and I just remember the little person looking up at us and seeing this group of rowdy teenagers laughing hysterically at him. And he probably thought we were just the world's biggest assholes. And I wanted to be like, no, it's cool. We're on acid.
That's amazing.
But your story's even better because you held out to that piece of information till the very end.
If I brought it up in the beginning, nobody would take it seriously.
They thought it was some shit out of Twin Peaks, like that. But think about it, okay, this is if I come across offensive as saying this, I don't mean it whatsoever. But realistically, that dude wasn't a cop,
right?
You know what I mean? He wasn't a fucking ATF agent. Which means those other people, who were they? Maybe it was some kind of sting operation and he was the guy wearing the wire. Maybe it was a drug deal or something and he was the informant. I don't know what. But the idea that these 4 guys escorting this dude out of the apartment were, ATF agents and they had fucking captured some kind of career criminal. That kind of goes out the window when you see that one of them's a little person.
Right.
You know what I mean?
What is this? It was wild. It was so wild to me. And I just, like I said, my brain was like, what the fuck? Because I see the guy walking out and I see all these guys first of all, these guys dressed up in all black, which was not, you don't see you see people dressed in all black. Obviously, I wear all black, but just the way they were dressed, it was very kind of militarized. And I was like, okay.
Right.
And, so they dress, so I see the one guy walk in, then I see the other guy come in, but there's another guy beside him. And again, the first thing I notice is the hood on the guy's head. And I notice that his hands they're bound in front of him even. So if it was an arrest, they'd be behind him.
Hey, so there is no height requirement to be part of the FBI. I just looked it up.
Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. So then, and then I see another person beside him and it's a little person. And I'm like, what? I was just so confused. I'm like, what is going on? Why is this? Is this real? I'm very upset. I didn't know what was happening. It was a wild situation. But there's a little lightheartedness because it's gonna get pretty bad again, you guys.
This is the last case of the show.
Last case of the show, the best for last, I suppose. But there's a good reason why we talk about it in general. But anyway, so if you've been on the Twitter, and you've been seeing what's going on, we've talked a lot about this Satanic Panic D&D situation. And when I think about, obviously when Pat thinks about Satanic Panic, he thinks about D&D. When I think about Satanic Panic, I think about true crime. Because there's a lot of cases in the 80s that really kind of fueled the Satanic Panic fever, and this was absolutely one of them. So back in the 1980s, there was a man known by the name of Robin Gecht. And Robin had a crew of people. As a matter of fact, they called themselves the Chicago... Well, I don't think they called themselves, but they were known as the Chicago Ripper Crew. Maybe they did call themselves that.
Robin, they were not from Chicago, though, by the way.
They weren't from Chicago.
No.
They weren't? What do you mean? They were outside of Chicago?
Yeah, they're from fucking Villa Park.
Okay, all right. They're
from the suburbs. They're suburban weirdos.
Okay. Well, that's interesting.
We'll get to that later.
But or okay, the Ripper Crew. They're not allowed to be called Chicago. But anyway, so this was a group of fellows who would abduct women, and they would do various things to them. At least 7 of the cases, what they would do is they took these women back to Robin's attic, which they had set up in a type of ritualistic way. And they would kill these women. While they killed the women, Robin would read passages from the Satanic Bible. They would cut off the woman's left breast. They would eat parts of it, sometimes parts of the women, other parts of the women. They would sexually assault the women. They would all masturbate into the breast. And then Robin kept most of them. At least one of the guys in the group claimed to have seen a box of left breasts. He said that there was 15 of them in the box. And then they would dump the bodies other places. Now, they were convicted. I guess it's really believed that they killed more, but right now they're pegging them responsible for 18 murders. And again, there's probably more to it. All of the men had gotten life in prison, were all convicted of murder except for Robin. Robin was not. He was convicted with other things. However, he is in prison. He got 120 years in prison. But obviously these guys did it because they were in some type of cult. It wasn't just that. People knew that they were in some type of cult together. I didn't know they were killing people. But word on the town, and like these guys and their their family members and their friends knew that they were in a cult, and that it was Robin Gecht who was the kind of the leader of this cult. And obviously, there's some Satanism involved there. Robin maintains, I believe he is still alive. He maintains to this day that he never killed anybody, or did anything like that, of course. But the guys say otherwise. So that's the basics of it. The interesting thing, the little tidbit I found out about Robin Gecht because I read this fun fact, and the fun fact was that he actually worked for John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah, for his construction company.
Yeah, and they worked together. Now, whether or not either of them knew that they were killing people in such horrific ways, nobody knows.
Well, there's people that have suggested, even John Wayne Gacy has suggested,
was not alone.
Yeah, that he didn't work alone, or that he was part of some bigger conspiracy. And people wonder if Robin tied into that.
And there are some instances, like when you look at the Gacy case and you look at the possibility of other people being involved, where, it definitely makes you wonder. I mean, maybe we'll do a Gacy episode one of these. Maybe we'll have like a serial killer month and we'll talk about some big people.
We could do a Gacy. That's actually, it's interesting that we haven't done that yet, because
like
that
was such a big case.
Yeah, because that's a huge, and I remember aspects of that because he was alive. I mean, he's dead now, but he died when I was like in high school or like 8th grade or something. He was alive for a while. And people, it wasn't that long ago after I was born that I remember hearing my mom and my relatives talk about it. Like that was a really big fucking deal.
Well,
Yeah.
he's a very interesting. I mean, I he's a very interesting case. Like they believe that most of his weirdness was attributed to this head injury that he had as a child, and that's interesting. And and then of course the double life aspect to it, and just we'll probably talk about it. I don't know. How about I do a poll? Do you guys like these true crime episodes? I mean, the numbers say that they do pretty well, but if you like them, I mean, we could definitely do more of them. I
Yeah.
like talking about it, so it's again one of my other favorite things. I'll do the poll and let me know. But anyway, so yeah, he at least they work together, which was weird. Small,
Right.
small world.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, I mean, as far as these women goes, I mean, obviously they knew that there was some type of group happening because they were all missing their left breast every time, and they were, I mean, plus other things. I mean, they were, they had personal items, so that they weren't robbing these women.
Hmm.
Some of them were still found with money on their person and things like that, and but they were sexually assaulting them. They knew that, and again, their titty was missing. So, but which was weird because Robin Gecht, like, even though, like, even his wife was like, he did not do this. That's not possible. Like, maintained, and she might even still be alive, has maintained his innocence. But an ex girlfriend did come forward and say that, like, during sex one night, he had like mutilated her titty. And she found at that point she's like, oh, he's nuts, and like left. So like that was kind of his thing. I don't know why, but he was really into that. I don't know, but again, obviously this group of people is a little bit different. I mean, they did it well. Robin probably didn't really believe in Satanism. Let's just get that out of the way. He probably wasn't really a Satanist. He probably did it because he's a sadist, right? He probably did it because he's got issues. However, the rest of the guys in the group probably were not very smart, as far as we know. I mean, you can look all of them up individually and see the kind of people they were. Probably weren't very smart, and they probably did believe that they were a part of something larger than themselves. So to them, they probably thought they were doing this for religious reasons.
Yeah, that was one of the notes that I had, was that the Satanism shit just sounds like stuff that Robin was making up. Like, it doesn't, not that I am an expert on the occult or
Right.
rituals or anything, but just, and not that there's a lot of details about exactly the kind of rites that they enacted,
There's
but
not, yeah.
just based on what I read and what I know, it sounds very much like thrown together, like you said, like he was probably doing it more for show and to create a specific atmosphere to kind of get control over these guys. He was
Right.
using it as a tool of manipulation, not
To itch his
not
scratch.
as a tool of like divination or anything like that. He didn't think that he was invoking any kind of like evil spirit or communicating with Satan. He was just using it as a way to control the other three guys into thinking that they were a part of something bigger, or that Robin's commands were coming from a higher power and they weren't just Robin telling him to do shit.
Right, right, exactly. And so, and for Robin, it was just, he just wanted to kill these women and masturbate on their severed titties. I mean, that's what, I guess, that's really all it was. I would assume for him. Of course, it's hard because again, he maintains his innocence. So it's not like
Hmm.
it's not like in the case of like Armin where he will talk about it freely and tell you how he justified it, why he thought it was okay, and what he was doing. This guy does not do that, so that makes it difficult. But obviously, I think he had something at play there mentally that was off. Because otherwise, if he really thought he was doing it for religious reasons, he'd just come out and be like, "Yeah, I did it because hail Satan." You know what I mean? Like that's what.
Hail Satan!
Right. I mean, he would just say that. But what's interesting is that like these guys weren't careful. I mean, they really weren't, and it took them kind of not a crazy long time to get caught or anything, but 18 women to get caught, and they had two victims get away. Two of them
Hmm.
survived. The first one, she gave them the description and just nothing ever came out of it. And then, finally, by the time the second one was caught, um, the police questioned Robin, and they were gonna let him go. They didn't have anything to convict him on. And it was when they went to one of the other guys, and immediately the other guy just told him everything. Told him everything.
What you have a lot of, some of them are prostitutes. Number one,
Most of them
uh,
are,
yeah. So there's not there's not so, it's kind of like, well, that's what they get for being fucking whores. Like,
Right.
you open
Especially
yourself
in the
up to this.
1980s, right.
Right. And number two, it was in Chicago. It was the outlying western suburbs. So you have different police departments kind of investigating these different cases.
Yeah.
And, they're not all working together. They're not all sharing information. So, and they don't necessarily have the resources to go after this stuff. You know what I mean? If
Right.
when you're Villa Park, when you're, Hanover Park, when you're one of these suburbs out in the West, and a dead Chicago hooker shows up in a dumpster somewhere, you're just like, okay, fucking great. Like, how are you? You don't have the resources at the time, or even the inclination, to try to trace her back to the city and figure out who grabbed her from where and why they dropped her off. And this is something about a lot of these crimes, and also something I've noticed in meeting people off the internet, is that there's a lot of weird trash that washes up along 290. Like, if you look at that expressway, that's the one that kind of runs through all the suburbs where like these crimes happened. I have often said that 290's got to be built on fucking dragon lines or something, because you would just get the weirdest bitches from
Okay.
online. Like, if I had to, if I was talking to some girl online and she's like, "Yeah, come on over," and I had to map quest how to get to her house, and it involved me going on 290, I was like, "Oh, great, this is gonna be. I better write my address and stick
Oh
right
God, Pat, you're gonna get us canceled generalizing.
write this address and stick it underneath my keyboard, because I might not come back from this one." Like, it was, as opposed to 294, which goes north of the city up towards Wisconsin. Those were always beautiful, lovely people. But 290, when you go into the western burbs, it's a lot of fucking weirdos. And that's where Gacy was from. That's where all these guys were hanging out and killing people and dumping the bodies. This is where the Palatine Browns chicken shit. It's all western burbs. And
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know.
you told me about that.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about that area, but like, oh my God, you could set your watch to it. There's something fucking off about that spot. And I always kind of attribute it to, people that couldn't hack it in the city, or wanted to live in Chicago, had to work in Chicago, whatever, or had to work in Chicago but didn't want to live in it. And they want to kind of stick out to the burbs. They want to be on the outliers. They want to be on the edge of town, right? They don't want to be necessarily, in town. They want to be a little bit away from the campfire, so they
Okay.
can do what they want to do underneath the cover of dark. That's always the vibe I got. It's a lot of mob shit out there too. Um, if you look at a lot of those old suburbs, they were kind of like places that the mobsters would live, because they wanted to keep their shit separate from Chicago in case the Chicago police ever came looking for them. But
Interesting. Wow.
yeah, it's a weird spot. And then you talk about the '80s, when all that stuff was kind of just being developed, you know, um, and it just this reading this case and this story, it creates a very it's very atmospheric for me, having grown up here. Like, I can, you look at these people, and it really does, and these locations and these kind of crimes, and it invokes the feeling of a different time that I think is very much, when I think of the Satanic Panic, I think of this kind of stuff. And this was very much where
Well, this one definitely
we
fueled
were.
it because they were doing, whether or not the leader thought that there was anything to it, they were doing satanic rituals. It helps the case. Now we know now that satanic panic is not real. Like we know that, that's why we call it satanic panic. It's not a real thing. It's just, and it just kind of evolves, and we will get more into that. This is kind of, if you're still here listening, kind of your little treat for what's coming. But this is one of those things that again fed into that and made it all the more real for people that were already like, that's probably happening. And then cases like this happen, and they're like, oh, see, it's definitely happening. See, we knew it was happening. They obviously played D&D. I don't know.
Well, it was enough a part of the cultural zeitgeist that Robin Getch knew to invoke it when he was trying to rally these people behind him. I mean, whether or not he had any actual ties to the religion, or I don't think he did, but he knew that it was in the air. It was
Right.
very very of the time. I don't think that he would be as successful doing that now as he was then. If you were to try to rally up four guys to cut off titties for you, I don't know if you can do that nowadays and just say, "Oh yeah, we're Satanists." I think people would kind of be like, "What?" Like, no, you're not. Like, I googled that shit. That's not real. Or like, like I think it would just it's too. It's not the same thing as it was back then. But back then, as much as the panic aspect, and I'm sure we'll get to that when we talk about it,
Sure.
was unfounded. Um, Satanism was, I mean, it's not like it wasn't real. I don't
Right.
think it was
Satanism.
everywhere, but it definitely was in some places. And there were some people using it to their own devices.
I mean, Satanism is a very real religion. I mean, first of all, let's get that out of the way. But Satanists aren't bad people. They don't.
Well, I think bad people come in all shapes and form.
Well, sure, but I mean,
They're
they
not
don't
inherently bad
sacrifice
anymore. Yeah.
people and cut off titties and jerk off to them and in them and whatever.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Like, I like a big titty as much as the next guy, but I don't want to slice one open, peel it back, and then like
Jerk
that was just
into it.
yeah. That's
With a
not
bunch of
that.
other guys like sitting around like, okay, let's all, you guys ready? I wonder if they had to shoot their load at once or like if they took turn. Okay, I'm not.
They probably who knows
It's
how do
really
you?
insensitive.
I never even get how like if I had to dude if I'm trying to have sex and my dog barks in the other room, I lose my boner. Like, I can't
Right.
imagine having to like wrestle somebody down or like fight with somebody and then fuck them. Like, that to me just seems
And
like
these like they're alive. Like the one survivor, what they did, like they ended up, I think they cut off her titty and then like they stabbed her or something and then like jerked off into her wound and then duct taped it shut and then left her there and then dropped her off and left her. Like, how was that sexy? None of that is sexy. Like
fucking
that's not okay.
suburbanites, man.
Right, right. And then, like you said, I mean, gosh, the dog barking and like what? They didn't have peer pressure with everybody watching. Like everybody's looking at you, and you're like, oh.
Well, it sounds like, and I might have to go back over the facts of the case. It doesn't sound like the four of them were like rolling in four deep every time they did this shit. It seems like there was, like maybe every crime he had a different.
Well, like I said, at least 7 of the cases they were all in the attic doing this. So they
Oh
took the
wow,
women back
okay.
to the attic. Right, and it was a ritual. It is really hard to find details about the case.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose you would probably have to go back and read the actual transcripts to get like the best picture of the story that you could. And I'm assuming nobody did that for what 4 or 5 guys, and it's a lot. But and then plus the he said she said, and then you got Robin who's not admitting to it and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But they did make it seem like, and like the one victim said that she was grabbed up by multiple men, grabbed on the street, or survivor rather, grabbed on the street, and by all these guys, and so it does sound like they did it together for the most part. Now, whether or not they wonder now if Robin was responsible for other murders on his own accord,
Mm-hmm.
but he definitely could have been. But again, that's just speculation. He's never admitted it. He's never talked to anybody about it in prison. They don't have any evidence. That's that. Again, people wonder if he was involved with Gacy. There's just no evidence that he was. We'll never know. But either way, I mean, they were doing it for some type of ritualistic, reason. Now, I believe that two of them are out. At least one of them is out of prison, but I think it's two of them are now out of prison.
One of them got out recently because I think that was when that was something that brought this specific case to my attention, was that maybe within the past 10 years one of them got released.
I think in 2019.
Yeah, or even sooner. That makes sense. And then reading that story, it linked to the original stories, and then it was all back on my radar again.
Yeah, he ended up moving. Actually, his address is online. He lives at like this Christian shelter. They took him in
Yeah.
because his family was like really a part of the church, like a big part of the church, and things like that. And they've always maintained his innocence. Actually, I believe he said that it was one of them said that it was okay that they killed these people because he was already saved. Actually, I'm sorry. I think that was William Sapp that said that. One of the people that we talked about tonight did say that they were talking to a prisoner. They said it's all right. I killed those people. I'm already saved, so it's fine. and that was okay. But the one guy in the Chicago Ripper case, his family was really big into the church. So the church really backed him. He's now out of prison, living his best life. He killed at least 18 women and jerked off into their titty, and it's fine.
I mean, I don't know if he's necessarily living his best life. He's alive,
Well,
which is more than you can say for his victims. But
that's true.
you also got to live with what you did, and if you did it in the first place, you're probably kind of fucked in the head. So he's some crazy motherfucker living in a church basement somewhere. I don't necessarily want to switch spots with him.
I think that Robin is up for parole soon. Whether or not he will get it is another story, but he is up for parole. And then, like I said, I believe at least one other guy is out, but they tend to protect these people once they get out. So some of them, I think, have the option.
You should write these guys a letter and see if they want to come on the podcast.
Sure.
Yeah.
We'll do that. Maybe they'll talk about it. I mean, if you guys want to, if you're a killer out there and you want to talk about killing, I am very curious. I would like to know exactly kind of what went down. I mean, it's a horrific case because you're talking, murder, you're talking torture, rape, necrophilia, cannibalism, all in one. And not just one person doing it, multiple people doing it.
You know how many crazy people I have to talk to because of this show anyway?
What do you mean? Why? Like me every week?
No. I mean, like the random crazy people that fucking bother us because of this fucking show. Like I would like to, to interview somebody that had like a really interesting story like this, where I would just want to know, like, what was, what were you hoping to achieve? Like, did you feel like you were communicating with something? Just the religious aspect of it. I don't need to have him walk me through, like, all the lives that he ended, but just like, was it about the act? Was it about, did you think that you were serving a higher power?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is that why you did it?
Well, yeah, I understand. I mean, that's
because this wasn't like four guys that thought they were so smart they could get away with some shit.
No,
right? These weren't four
guys
that met on it.
Behind it. Like I said, they were really dumb. They were leaving semen and everything behind it. They were really dumb. They were just grabbing people off the street, grabbing these prostitutes off the street, throwing them in the van, and taking them to the fucking murder attic. They weren't.
And this, I mean, it seems like unless there's more than, like, a lot more than what we know about, the span of crimes was only about 18 months, a little bit less than that. So, which is a long time, but it's not like this was years and years and years. It's not like the Golden State guy or whatever,
right?
Like where it was like decades this person was getting away with this shit. They pretty much killed about one person a month,
right?
For about 18 months, and that's what they were doing. And that's a pretty prolific run, but it's almost one that's kind of like unsustainable.
Yeah.
Are you gonna do one person a month for the rest of your lives? Like, when does this end? What's the goal here? What are you reaching towards? Is it the perfection of the act? Was it just Robin doing it? You have four people, you got four different motives for doing that stuff. You know, how were these four people collected? You know what I mean? Were they people that had interest in the first place, or was that interest implanted and then kind of fostered by him?
Right.
It's really interesting, and it kind of goes to show, like, people are weird, man, and people are very susceptible to influence. And when you talk about why there was so much satanic panic back in the 80s at all, it was because people worried about their kids. I mean, if you look at this case and you look at the facts of this case, and you look at the Loeb and Leopold case, what do we take away? What do we learn today, Charlie Brown? What do we take away from it is that, unsuspecting people of high intelligence can be corrupted by outside influences and forced to and inspired to commit unspeakable acts.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. You can definitely be influenced by things that you never really thought that you could be involved, because again, I'm sure that there's at least in the case of like the first case that we had, and then this case, I mean, when it came to the middle cases where it was just the two individuals, they were probably both really fucked up people in that case. When you have groups of people, usually there is at least one person that knows. They know that it's wrong. They just do, like in the case with the Wyndham guy, they just continue to inch forward closer and closer and closer. And then, before you know it, it's just like, what the frog's sitting in the boiling water, the boiling water heats up very slowly. They don't realize that it's boiling until it's too late.
Right. No, I think that's exactly right. And I think that, like, look, I've never killed anybody, but ask me if I've ever done anything that I knew was wrong.
Well, have
Of
you?
course, yeah, I know you have too. And that sounded very, that sounded very wrong.
I don't think we've ever done anything wrong together, surprisingly.
No, 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 no. Of course not. Of course not. We're not suggesting that. I'm just saying, like, I know you have, and I know I have too, and I know most people have listening to the show.
Sure.
If not everybody.
Sure.
And before we say, like, okay, there's a line that I know that I will never cross, or there's a line that I know that I could never cross. Don't be so sure. Who knows? Maybe
Right. Think about your own boundary. Well, I think that's a better way to put it. Not something that we shouldn't doing stuff that we know is wrong. No. Doing stuff that pushed our boundaries. Have you ever pushed your boundaries before? I have.
I once, when I first discovered masturbation, I promised myself that I would never jerk off on Sunday.
And now you jerk off every Sunday.
Well, no, not necessarily, but let's just say it's happened. Like that. That was a line that I drew in the sand that I eventually stepped across, and I don't remember what exactly made me do it, but rest assured, I did it.
Well, right. I mean, we've all, we create boundaries for ourselves all the time. I'm not going to do that. Being somebody that's been in, domestic abuse situations, like I know.
Oh my
like
God!
Initially, I go into the relationship and I'm like, well, I would never put up with something like that. And then lo and behold, I'm the one putting up with something like that. So, I mean,
right.
it happens a lot. I mean, not that, just in general, with people in general,
Sure. I think, yeah, the human psyche and our moral compasses are more susceptible to influence than we probably like to admit. And maybe that's why the satanic panic caught hold like it did, is because if we admit that about ourselves, then we admit that outside agencies can influence our behavior and the behavior of our children. And that was why we looked at some of these things with so much suspicion and apprehension, is because, and we laugh about it now. And maybe some of those things were very innocuous, but like, hey, so's chatting with a bunch of fucking cannibals on a website about how it'd be funny to eat somebody, and it's all just a joke, and you're just talking shit online, right? Until somebody says, "Hey, I'm going to drive over tonight,"
right?
And the next thing you know, you're cutting the dude's dick off and frying it in a frying pan and giving it to your dog. You know what I mean? Like, who fucking?
Yeah,
it's a slippery slope. You start. Start playing with those brakes.
Cannibalism.
It's just abstinence. That's why abstinence is the only answer. Don't eat people at all. Don't go online at all.
This is why. Listen, if you're a parent and you need to talk to your kid about sex, just have them listen to this episode. This is why you don't have sex. It's obviously the devil.
It's just no. I mean,
hire Pat O to have the talk with your child.
My God, I keep trying to have it with my son, and he's like, "Stop it, stop it, stop."
He's not
like,
ready
well,
yet. Leave him alone.
You're 11 now. You should know. Stop it, stop it.
He doesn't want to talk about it. He's not having it. Well, but no, I mean, you're right. It is a very slippery slope. Things move quickly. Life in general moves very quickly, and before you know it, you're in prison for murder, I guess, and you helped. Do you think that anybody that we talked about today shouldn't be in prison for the rest of their life?
I don't know. I'm glad that I don't have to make that decision. There's only one person I ever had put in prison, and that was enough for me.
That was you've had your fill.
Yeah. I mean, what, should I applaud these guys for their creative approach to jerking off on titties? Like, that's not how I jerk off on titties, but
there's different ways to jerk off on titties.
That's those Western suburbs for you. It's a whole different breed out there.
It's such a weird. I'm not sure. You're right. I don't know what the point of that. Like, even ritualistically, why did they do that? Like, why?
Which? Okay, this is our fucking. I actually have to go. This show's been going on entirely too long.
Yeah.
What is the hardest one for you to wrap your head around? the fucking cannibal shit, like the straight up like German Armin cannibal stuff, or the Ripper Crew like dissection, like ripping titties off with piano wire stuff.
Definitely the Ripper Crew
Yeah,
is much, because you know
the
what, at least in the
mutilation.
Cannibal one, again, Armin was nice. You know, they went out and he did it with consent, and with the Ripper Crew, that's just fucking horrifying. I mean, that was completely disgusting.
Yeah,
You know, so.
yeah, it was a different. Yeah,
But as far as like weird goes, like as like a weirdness level, I mean, they're both pretty weird. Again, like I don't know what did these guys think would happen by them ejaculating into it inside of a titty, like, and why the left titty, like, what are the details?
maybe it's the one above the heart. Maybe it was a heart thing. Maybe it wasn't necessarily right, because that's like where the heart's at.
Yeah, but if you're gonna kill this person, why not just rip the heart out and jerk off in it? I mean, it's just weird. It's, I don't know, you're right, maybe we'll write to these guys, like this, like I said, the one guy,
No, you
like,
got
yeah,
to do it. They're not gonna answer me. You look
I
like the kind
can't
of
do it.
person that writes to
They're
guys
gonna
in
want
prison
to
anyway.
fucking cut my titties off and jerk off into them. Like, no. I like both of my titties, and I'd like to keep them.
Yeah, I mean they're good for the podcast too. What can I say?
Okay, well, on that note, guys, obviously next week it's here. It's here and it's big. We're gonna talk about Satanic Panic. I don't usually tease you guys with what the next episode's gonna be, but that's for sure the next episode, and that's what we're talking about. So if you would like to learn more about Satanic Panic, we'll see you back here next Wednesday.